Madison and welcome back to my channel. Today I have my 20k Q&A. So I'm really excited to be filming this video. I recently hit 20k subscribers here on YouTube. It has been absolutely amazing. I am so thankful for each and every single one of you guys who have subscribed to my channel and who watch my videos and like and comment. I love seeing it. It really makes my day, and it's honestly been such an accomplishment to make it to 20k. There's so many new faces here from the last time I've done a Q&A. So I'm going to be answering some of the questions that you guys had for me. I did put up a poll over, I put up a question thingy-mabob over on Instagram, and I also put up a question kind of box here on YouTube. I have looked at some of them. I honestly didn't look at a lot of this stuff beforehand. I kind of perused it vaguely. So I'm gonna get into the questions now. I'm gonna start with the ones over on YouTube. I will say there is one question that I did get a lot. There is one question that literally every single one of you guys wanted to know, and that is, what do I do for my work? And you know, how did I get into book publishing? How do I work in book publishing? Do I ever feel like there is any sort of like a conflict between working in book publishing and also having a booktube channel? So I'm going to answer those questions first, just because I feel like I'm just going to get them out of the way. Hello, nice to meet you if you don't know already. I'm Madison. I am 24 years old currently. My birthday is in November. I am a Scorpio. I'm turning 25 this year. And around about a year ago, actually, I just had my 1 year work anniversary, I got a job in book publishing. Prior to that, I did do my undergraduate degree in neuroscience, so I do have a Bachelor of Science in neuroscience. I was pre-med and then the pandemic hit and I decided to change routes. I was really enjoying everything that I was doing here in BookTube. I loved all the book work that I was doing. I was actually working as a beta reader for a young adult author at the time, and kind of just realized that I thought it would be really fun to actually pursue a career in book publishing. During the pandemic, I ended up signing up for online classes. I'm filming. Can I help you? I ended up signing up for online classes to get a Master's of Science in Publishing. And so it was it took me 1.5 years to complete my Master's. It normally takes 2, but it was the pandemic, so I just blasted through all of my prereqs that I had to get through. So I took those classes for about a year, and then I spent my last semester working on my graduate thesis, which did get published. My thesis was actually on romance novels and on diverse representation in them. So diversity in regards to sexuality, race, neurodivergence, fat representation, and kind of just everything in general within the romance industry. I want to say that I started looking for a job in publishing when I was a little bit into my first semester of my master's program. So in around about November, December of 2020. And then throughout 2021, I was actively applying to jobs. I was getting interviews. I went through a lot of interviews. I went through a lot of job applications. It is a very hard industry to get into, I will say that. So I was consistently applying. I got through like the final round like a bunch of different times. I was applying to both editorial assistant positions and marketing assistant positions. I kind of was going to be happy in either place, and so I was applying to both. And then I ended up applying to an internship at a literary agency, and I ended up getting that internship. It was an unpaid internship at a literary agency. They're all unpaid. And so I worked there for around about 4 weeks, and during those 4 weeks of being a literary agent intern, I ended up getting a call for one of the jobs I had applied to, and ended up doing around about 3-4 rounds of interviews, plus they make you do like a fake task to get the job as well. I did all that, and then I ended up getting the job. So I had to quit my internship and start my actual job. And so I currently work in a young adult, and I work as a marketing and social media associate. I was actually promoted after 6 months, so my title is senior marketing and social media associate in the young adult imprint. And the way that I really got my job, what I think really helped me sell myself, was just my own knowledge from the book community. What I do is a little bit different. My company is smaller than I don't work for the big 5. My company is smaller, and because of that, my role is very different compared to what my role would be at a different house. A lot of the traditional houses, your role is your role, so whatever your title is, you kind of stick with. So while my job title says marketing and social media, I do publicity. I do also work in acquisitions and that editorial process as well. Every Tuesday, I'm in the cover design meetings to look at the covers for our upcoming titles. It's really amazing what I get to do for my job, and I'm really lucky for the fact that like my company allows me to do this, because not everyone does. But I primarily work on marketing and social media, so I run the social media, and I'm also making design graphics and social media graphics for whenever we have events or if we're doing promotional materials. When I'm the one who designs when we're sending out like ARC mailings and ARC packages. I run our influencer. I feel like this entire video is going to be me talking about my job. That was not the intention here. I feel like I'm applying to a job now, being like, here's what I do for my current job. I do create the ARC mailings, which is like one of my favorite things to do, is because I feel like I receive a lot of, ARC mailings from other publishers, and, I kind of draw inspiration from those and kind of know what I would like to receive in them, and kind of like curate boxes that way when I send them out. So I did a mug recently. I did a mug at the beginning of this year, which was extremely expensive. You slowly learn how much things cost. And so sometimes I'll get like ARC mailings like from different houses, and they'll have like these really cool promotional materials on them. And I sit there and I go, this stuff costs so much money. It's so crazy. Like one time I got like a full on sand timer in like a promotional materials box, and I was like, bruh, how much money did that cost? And like when things come personalized, that's also a whole thing. I do all the marketing and social media for every single young adult book that we publish. So I'm in contact with every single author that we publish in young adult, but I'm also the title lead for half of those books as well. We split the books up between me and my colleague. It's just the two of us who work on them, plus my boss. I get to work with book boxes, which is really cool. One of my favorite parts of the job is working with the book boxes. The question of how do I make sure that my work doesn't conflict with my booktube channel, that the way that I don't let it conflict is pretty easily, I just don't talk about the books that I work on. So if you have noticed, whenever I do read manuscripts that I have to read because I'm the marketing lead on them, a common misconception that a lot of people have is that if you work in book publishing, you get to read books while you work. You don't. You have to read all the books and the manuscripts on your own time outside of work. It's a common misconception, so I do want people to know that you don't. Even the editors half the time don't get to read their stuff during work hours because we have meetings all the time. Yeah, I just don't talk about them on my channel. I'll tell you guys in my wrap-ups that I've read X book, it's coming out, it's one that I worked on, and that's it. I don't rate them or anything like that, so I don't feature them anywhere else, and that's kind of how I keep it separate. And I think that's a big reason why you guys have seen me read less and less young adult books over the last, I want to say 15 months or so, is because I now work in young adult, and that just makes it a little bit harder for me to read it for fun and free time, because it's what I'm consistently working on and what I am reading for work. And so when I'm trying to read for my own pleasure, I'm gravitating more towards adult fantasies and adult romances. So I think that's a big part of the reason why, because I had someone actually ask me if I'm still reading fantasy books, and I am. I'm just not reading them as much in the young adult genre for that main reason. I'm never going to directly say what company I work for on my channel, but it's not hard to figure out if you pay enough attention, especially since I tell you the books that I work on for work that I read. If you just Google them, you can figure it out, Okay, so anyway, that's gonna be the end of me talking about that stuff. Okay, let me ignore now all of these questions about publishing. Someone says, do you watch ASMR? I do not watch ASMR. I've never watched ASMR. It's never been something that I've been interested in. What is your favorite subgenre of romance? I don't really know what my favorite subgenre is. I will tell you what my favorite subgenre is right now. I feel like your favorite subgenre can change from time to time. I would say my current favorite subgenre is Omegaverse. I love Omegaverse. It's like catnip to me. It's delicious. I love finding new ones. 100% that is currently my favorite subgenre of romance. If you'd asked me this time last year, I would have said Mafia, but currently it is Omegaverse. Or it could have been Small Town. I do love Small Town. Damn, I love small town romance. I'm gonna stick with the Omegaverse, but I do love my small town romances. What are some hobbies you enjoy outside of reading, and or do you plan to stay in New York, or is there anywhere else you would like to live? Okay, so what do I do for my hobbies? So I work from 9:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then on Monday nights and Thursday nights after work, I edit my videos for the next day. So I don't really do much on those days. And so I would say my free times are Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday nights, and then the weekends. So my hobbies in my spare time, I like to watch TV. I watch K-dramas. I also like to watch like cooking reality TV shows. I love all of Gordon Ramsay's stuff. I'm watching MasterChef currently. I'm watching The Bear as well. I like Bear, that's a good TV show. So I watch TV. I play video games. I like the PlayStation and the Nintendo Switch. The last game I recently played was Watch Dogs Legion on PlayStation, and then when I finished playing that is when I kind of delved back into my K-drama, phase. I vary between what my hobby is. My hobby is either a TV show or it's a video game. Currently I'm watching TV shows. I get my nails done once a month. That's my self-care. I like to go shopping sometimes in person. Otherwise I shop online majority, but I do like to go shopping in person every once in a while. But a majority of my spare time, a majority of my hobbies is reading, especially because outside of work, I have this as like a second job. Basically is my YouTube, my TikTok, and my Instagram, and I need to read books to create content. And so a lot of my spare time is devoted to reading books. I'm not a very interesting person. I go to book conferences. I go to K-pop concerts. I do go to K-pop concerts. I feel like that is one of the most interesting things that I do. It's hard to make friends when you're in your 20s and you're had the pandemic and you don't go into work, and I work remote. I don't actually go into the office. So I think because of that, I don't really have much that I do. I sound so sad. Do I plan to stay in New York, or is there anywhere else I'd like to live? I'm currently planning to stay in New York. My parents do live on the West Coast, and I think I would like to live out there at some point. I don't know when, but I do think I would like to live out there just because I prefer the weather out on the West Coast and I'm a child. Someone else says, what's your favorite guilty read genre? I'd have to still say Omegaverse. Omegaverse is just it's such a guilty pleasure. I love the shit out of it. I got nothing, it's just the best, dudes. When will your dad read and react to the Cool Prince trilogy? I saw this and I thought this was a very smart idea. I currently don't live with my parents anymore, so that's when I was filming all those videos because I was living with my parents. But I would love to read the Cruel Prince series to my dad. I think that'd be a really great one. So I'm gonna put that on the books when I can find the time to do that. Any shows that you've loved this year? Any new mangas that you liked recently? I'm actually currently filming a brand new shoujo manga recommendation, well, shoujo and josei manga recommendation video. And I'm also in the middle of curating a K-drama C-drama video recommendation. The show that I watched this year that I really love that I would recommend is Falling Into Your Smile. This is a C-drama and it takes place around esports. And so you're following this girl and she is the first professional female esports player in China. And it's really awesome. It's her romance with the guy who is the team captain of the esports team. And I loved it. It was hilarious. It was so good. Highly recommend. And then a new manga that I actually just read today because it just came out. I Will Never Be Your Crown Princess. So this is a spicy manga. It does have explicit scenes in it. So this is an isekai and it follows this girl. She's the daughter of a duke. She's engaged to the crown prince. Doesn't want to marry the crown prince. And the thing is that she can only marry the crown prince if she's a virgin. So she's like, I don't want to marry him, so I'm going to go lose my virginity to a stranger. So she goes to a masquerade ball, meets this really amazing guy, has a one-night stand with him, and it turns out he's the crown prince. So she done lost her virginity to him anyway and has to get married. So I had a lot of fun reading it. Only one volume out so far, but definitely recommend it. Do check it out. Someone says, what is the book that got you back into reading as a hobby? So I would say I was reading all the time up until my freshman year of college. I didn't really read during my freshman year of college, and then in between freshman and sophomore year, I got back into it. I would say what got me back into reading probably between my freshman and sophomore year was A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J Maas coming out. I was already a huge Sarah J Maas fan. She was the author that I was probably reading the most consistently of. And then, you know, Ako Wa, I just checked, came out in May of 2017. And so I do remember when I got off like college, like from my freshman year and came home, I remember reading it right away. And then I would say, like, I still remember during my sophomore year, before I started doing BookTube, a couple of the books that stand out to me that I read during that time. I read Rhapsodic by 봏ᴏ thalassa in 2017, 2018. I read The Cruel Prince. That came out then. It's funnily enough, I wasn't like the biggest fan of The Cruel Prince at the time. I like enjoyed it, but I wasn't like head over heels. I read The Last Named Sarah. The Last Named Sarah is a book that definitely did stand out to me, that I think did get me back into reading as well during that time. I know that what really got me back into reading just before I started my BookTube channel in 2018 was the Stalking Jack the Ripper series by Kerri Maniscalco, books 1 and 2. I read Stalking Jack the Ripper and Hunting Prince Dracula back to back because they were out, and I loved them, and I read them right before I started my BookTube. I read those two, so I got back into reading through YA fantasy 100%. Someone says, could you talk about your favorite K-pop groups and or songs, someone you got into recently, favorite songs of the year, most anticipated comebacks / debuts? So someone I've gotten into recently is Extraordinary Heroes. They are a brand new K-pop group. I love them. They are awesome. My most anticipated comeback was just now, which was #80s. #80s is my alt group. My favorite K-pop groups, I would say I have 3. They would be 17, Stray Kids, and #80s are my 3 favorite kind of male K-pop groups. Female-wise, I would say Girls' Generation and Red Velvet are my favorites. I grew up listening to K-pop a lot, especially K-pop when it comes to anime openings and things like that, because I grew up watching anime a bunch, and then I was listening to a lot of K-pop growing up as a kid, but I actually mostly listened to girl groups growing up. I only got into guy groups back in 2019-ish. I was into SHINee beforehand, but like, I mean, who wasn't into SHINee when they were like a kid? If you were like into K-pop at all, you had to be into SHINee. I'm just thinking now Lucifer, because I specifically remember back in like year 7, there was like a talent show and this group of girls did Lucifer for the talent show, and it was super cool. They like knew the whole dance. It was dope AF. I would say one of my favorite songs currently is Don Quixote by 17. That song is bomb.com. Let's get into some of the questions I was asked over on Instagram. Now, I want to say thank you so much to all of my friends who asked me a question on Instagram, and that their question was, "You're really hot and I love you and will you marry me?" I appreciate that. I already texted back my friend who asked if I would marry her, and I said, of course, if we're both single by the time that we are 40, we will get married and live in a cottage together, but we already had decided that. Who is an author you haven't met yet but would like to meet? I have met Sarah J Maas. I did meet her at BookCon. Well, Sierra Simone. I have not met Sierra Simone. I would love to meet Sierra Simone. She would be freaking amazing to meet. I would love to meet Catherine Moon. Catherine Moon would be amazing to meet. Oh, she would be really cool. Oh, and Tate James. I would die if I could meet Tate James. She lives in Australia. What is your favorite enemies to lovers book? Oh, my favorite enemies to lovers? I have an entire rec video you can check out. I don't know where the hell it's going to be, but I have an entire rec video on enemies to lovers romances, both fantasy and non-fantasy. But I will say one of the very first enemies to lovers romances that I ever read that really stuck with me has to be Daughter of the Pirate King by Trisha Levenseller. This one was great. Someone says, what do you think are the most underrated romance authors? Underrated? I feel like it's kind of hard, because I think that a lot of authors have become definitely more popular over the last like 6 or 7 months thanks to BookTok. Like, I would say Sophie is very popular now, so I wouldn't call her underrated. I don't know. I mean, I wonder, for me it's weird because I feel like I talk about Corinne Michaels all the time, but I don't know if anyone else talks about Corinne Michaels. So like, does that mean that Corinne Michaels is technically underrated? I love her to death. So, I mean, and I just wish more people would read her books. So I don't think she's underrated, but I don't see anyone else ever talking about her, so I guess it technically does make her underrated. So I would like to recommend that you read Corinne. Another underrated book that I have is Beyond the Ruby Veil by Mara Fitzgerald. This is a queer fantasy series, and the main girl in this is an anti-hero. Our heroine is an anti-heroine. And if you like villain arcs, if you like villain origin stories, and you like badass female heroines, and you don't mind blood magic, definitely check this out because it is amazing and no one ever talks about it. So, what is your biggest pet peeve in books? My biggest pet peeve in books... I really should have looked at these questions ahead of time because I have no idea what my answers are to anything. You know what? No, I remember now. I was gonna say something. I hate when the heroine gives off her magic for the greater good. I don't give a second shit. Let everyone die. Do not give up your magic. Do not ever, never ever give up your magic. Never give up your magic. I don't care if the entire human race is gonna die if you don't give up your magic. Don't do it. Let everyone suffer. I'd rather read a book where the entirety of human race dies than the main character give up her magic. End of story. That's my biggest pet peeve. I hate it, I hate it, I hate it. What is your go-to comfort read? That's from my lovely friend Lily. Comfort read. I don't reread books, but I will say as a kid, the book that I reread the most that I would consider my comfort read would probably be This Lullaby by Sarah Dessen. What is your favorite book trope ever outside of enemies to lovers? Why does everyone keep on... Enemies to lovers is not one of my favorite book tropes. Like, it exists and it's out there, but it's actually not my... Like, I like enemies to lovers in fantasy books, but I actually don't like enemies to lovers in my romance books at all. They're just... I feel like the trope is just never done well enough unless it's like a mafia book. I feel like they never actually feel like enemies. Mm-hmm. I would say that my favorite trope is Grumpy Sunshine. That is my favorite trope, and that's something that I've realized over the last year is one of my favorite tropes is Grumpy Sunshine. So there you go. In romance books, my favorite trope is Grumpy Sunshine. What romance series do you recommend? I recommend so many of the romance books. That makes no sense. I would definitely recommend Sophie Lark's entire series if you like mafia romance. I have an entire video explaining how to read them, but you can start with Brutal Prince by Sophie Lark. That's 100% a series I would recommend. I would recommend the Arrowwood series by Corinne Michaels if you like small town romances. If you're looking for just a overall smutty continuous series that is not standalones, I would recommend the Thornchapel Quartet by Sierra Simone. If you're looking for historical romance series, I would recommend the Wallflower series by Lisa Kleypas. Someone says, what model of a Kindle do you have? I have the Kindle Paperwhite 2019. It's still alive, so I'm not complaining. Are you dating anyone currently? No. I'm a single Pringle. It's entirely my own fault. I hate dating apps. Do you still read fantasy? I haven't seen a channel for a while. I do still read fantasy. The most recent fantasy series I read that I loved was the Play Prisoner series by Raven Kennedy. Highly recommend this. What got you into reading? What's your very first book? What got me into reading overall? Okay, so as a kid, my parents were really great. They always took me to Borders as a kid. My dad is a voracious reader, as you guys do know. I would say as a kid, what really got me into reading was the Rainbow Magic series by Daisy Meadows. Loved the Rainbow Magic series. Also the Go Girl series and the My Secret Unicorn. These three series, they were like my bread and butter as a kid. I would highly... do I recommend them? I don't know, you're probably too old for them. But they were where I started as a kid, and probably the reason why I'm such a collector is because they were collectible series. But that's how I got into reading as a kid. Those, and then I think my first introduction actually, I think, to manga and anime was actually Witch, W-I-T-C-H, which were graphic novels as a kid, so I also really got into those. What is your favorite part of the book community? you guys, and also my friends. I love all the friends that I've made through the book community. That has been like one of the best things in the entire world. Some of my best friends I have made through BookTube and Instagram and BookTok, like 100%. My favorite part of the book community is the community itself and making friends through them that I get to hang out with and chat with. 100%. Someone says, favorite romance trope, mine is anything small town and single parent, love your videos. See, I'm like, is small town a trope? Like, I always really struggle with, like, is small town a subgenre of romance or is it a trope? You know what I'm saying? Because, like, I love small town romances too. Okay, and then the last question I have is, what is an author you wish more people read? Sarah Blue! I wish more people talked about, I wish more people read Sarah Blue. If you like Omegaverse, please check out Sarah Blue. She's so amazing. I would highly recommend her. And then another author that oh, where's the book? Well, my book is missing, but also ḻᴏᴏᴏᴅ. ḻᴏᴏᴏᴅ is also another author who I freaking love. Put the book cover up here because I don't know where my copy of the book went. I mean, it's like this big, so I'm not surprised I misplaced it. But those are the two, Sarah Blue and ḻᴏᴏᴏᴅ, are two authors that I really do wish more people talked about because I love their books and they are definitely underrated. Yeah. I would say from my question earlier about like an underrated romance author and an author I wish more people read from would be Sarah Blue and ḻᴏᴏᴏᴅ. Lee is coming out with a brand new series, I think in like the next month or so. First book is called Chance, a series of like 7 books, like standalone romances that are dark romances, are based on DC villains, which I think is pretty cool. So the very first one is based off Two-Face. So, you know, if you guys are interested in that, I highly recommend. And then 2 people asked me what's like the smuttiest book, like smuttiest scene I've ever read, spiciest book I've ever read, something that I wish I could read over and over. I would probably say most recently, it would have to be The Pool Boy by Nikki Sloan. I have read smuttier books than this, but this does have some of the best smut in it that I have read ever. So I would definitely recommend this as like a book that like a smutty book that like smutty scenes I wish I could read over and over. If I had to choose like a smutty series that I could read over and over, it would easily be the Madison Kate Quartet by Tate James. This isn't like the smuttiest series overall, but the books get smuttier and smuttier as they go on. I wish I could reread this series for like just romance in general. If I could reread any book like ever for the very first time again, it would definitely be the Throne of Glass series. I would love to reread that for the first time again because that shit was nuts. I feel like I read so many smutty books nowadays. I don't even know what like the smuttiest book ever is. So yeah, that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, this 20k Q&A. It was a complete mess. I didn't read any of the questions beforehand. I really should have prepped this better. Maybe I will prep it better the next time I do this, but it is highly doubtful because I'm just a disorganized human being, but that's totally fine. Hope this answers some of you guys' questions, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit the like button down below. If you want to see more of me, please come to my channel, and until next time, thanks so much everyone. Bye-bye!